The 5 most critical non-quarterbacks for the Jacksonville Jaguars will determine their outcome just as much as Trevor Lawrence. I'll tell you about it here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As a fact, Jack, it is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find daily wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen. Make sure you tap into that location so you do not miss an episode of the show like the one today. And it is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Shout out to the everydayers that join us here every single day. And thank you to those that are here for the first time as well. Hopefully, I'll give you a reason to return. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about 5 non-quarterbacks that are the most critical in 2025 as we get ready to head into training camp. We know Trevor Lawrence is number one. I did a podcast, I think a day or two ago, talking about what he has to do to get to the MVP consideration, and everybody lost their mind. Right? But a lot of it has to do with other players and other people too. In reverse order, I'll tell you the guys that we're going to discuss. Mason Smith comes in at 5. We'll talk about him last. Right before that, Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker's been a really, really good player. But I think that there is something else. There's another level he's going to go to, and I think he'll get there. Lewis and Campbell sounds like a R&B group or a law firm. It is not. It is Jordan Lewis and Tyson Campbell. Those are 2 people. And we're going to make sure we get to Walker Little up front. That is the blind side protection for Trevor Lawrence. We're going to hit that. We are going to, though, start this out talking about Trevor Lawrence and the team as a whole. To kind of attach this to the last podcast I did, and if you did not hear or see it, make sure wherever you get your podcast, you go back and check that out as for context and reference point. But I'll start here today telling you that, of course, everyone knows that the quarterback is the most essential and critical person on any football team. He handles the ball each and every snap, whether it's a run or a pass. He's a coach on the field. He's the leader of the franchise as a whole. Of all 53, he's usually the alpha dog of the entire crew. And as the team goes, or as he goes, usually that means the team will follow along with him, right? Most of the teams that are really, really good have real good quarterback play, even if it's not from a person that people consider a great quarterback. It's somebody that knows his job and functions the way he's supposed to. But every time you look at one of those teams, guess what happens? It's the thing around them that makes them function at the highest level. The other parts, the things that are super, super critical. And while there are a lot of critical parts of the team, and everyone can have at some point equal importance, or depending on the situation, a different person can be more important, like the matchups and all of that. The thing that you have to realize is, I'm not saying that Josh Allen doesn't need to be playing better. I'm not saying that we don't need to see improvement. What I'm saying is we've seen a 17-sack season from him, so we need to see that from Trayvon too, or something like that. I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. The thing is, there are a lot of critical people. But for me, with this team, the way they are constructed, the guys that I'm going to discuss today are most critical. The reason why I'm bringing up Trevor Lawrence here, but I'm saying we're going to talk about the non-quarterbacks, is because his success depends on a lot of other people, and I think he's gotten a bad rap. I talked about the Jaguars and their prospects today on my Locked On NFL show with former NFL scout and Matt Williamson. Matt Williamson also is with our network on the Peacock and Williamson podcast, but he also works for the Steelers radio network, and he's a former NFL scout. But he has a way of looking around at everyone in the league, and normally we don't care what national people say about us, but when somebody says something nice, I told him I'll let y'all know. Here's Matt Williamson today talking about the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence and some of the things that have to happen around him for the Jaguars to reach their heights. So let's get to the Jaguars. I'll explain this before I ask you something. You said something a minute ago. You said teams don't really use team. History hasn't been kind for teams that made a turnaround. The Jaguars were the worst team I've ever seen in 2020. And then in 2021, they were worse than that. They changed coaches both years. And then finally, when they got rid of Urban Meyer, they brought in Doug Peterson. They went to the playoffs and got to the second round of the playoffs, and we were here in Jacksonville. The ebb and the flow of Jaguars, people don't realize this. In 30 years, they've been to 3 AFC championship games.
Yeah. There's some high
3.
moments. Yeah.
And each time right after that, there was this big dip. And they got there as an expansion team, then they dipped, and then they got back there in their 4th year, and then they dipped. They waited about 17, 18 years. They got there in 2017, then they dipped, and then they got there in 2022, close to it, 1 possession away, and then they dipped again. That means that you're right. History is going to be bad for teams. So they won 4 games last year, and now they got new hope again with Liam Cohen and an entire different staff. I think history is going to be a little bit better than Jacksonville this year because that team was better than a 4-win team last year. They lost 8 games by 1 score or less. Give me your opinion on the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence.
I'm excited about it. I think the organization is, you kind of indicated the roller coaster. I think that they're now climbing again, and I've been a Lawrence apologist. I understand that there's definitely some bad tape out there, a lot of it, maybe more than people even realize. But there's been a lot of first overall picks and highly touted dudes that at age 25, we still had questions about, Matthew Stafford. I mean, there's a lot of them, Peyton Manning early on, Aikman, et cetera, et cetera. His book, we're only on chapter 2, and hopefully there's 12 more chapters. You know what I mean? And his weapons to me are awesome. I have some doubts about the O-line, but I think the D is solid enough. I like the coaching hire, and I think the quarterback will live up to the contract.
You absolutely will, and I appreciate you saying that. I'm going to make sure I include that on Locked On NFL because that means we got love from somebody not in Jacksonville, and that don't happen very often, man. All right, that's my man Matt Williamson from the Locked On NFL afternoon show that you can get on Friday at about 2 p.m. That's when that comes out. We talk about a plethora of things as you can imagine, right? But the main thing is he's definitely right about Trevor Lawrence. And he's right to have concerns about the offensive line. And that's where we're going to start here in segment 2. Walker Little, in my opinion, is the most important member of that line for the sake of the blind side being protected. And I got good news for you. There's a lot of people that just got here that have had their first taste of Walker Little that actually have given a little bit of a good report. We'll talk about that in just a second. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Monarch Money. Listen, man, ever wish managing your money felt easier? I know I do. With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in a driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're building wealth by managing your money. Well, I'm not tech savvy, so therefore I sometimes need help, and I need things right there all in one place. And you can take control of your finances like I did with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Trucking right along here on Locked On NFL, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen, Jaguar fans. We are very, very, very close. Potential requests have gone in. We're like 2 weeks away from having boots on the ground. I know I just said that. Y'all better don't be pulling fans out when I say that now. That's an inside joke to those of the culture. We know what we're talking about, but we're talking about football right now. And as we head into training camp, one of the big questions is the offensive line. And generally, when you're talking about offensive line, you're talking about center. And I believe the Jaguars have addressed that. But you're talking about left tackle. You're talking about right tackle. Left tackle is huge, huge, huge for me. Walker Little, the Jaguars haven't really had that. They haven't had the spot solidified. They have actually awarded and given people, the spot. They have extended folks in the past. But I don't recall a time that we ever woke up and go, oh, left tackle's fine. We don't need to worry about that, right? Well, let me give you a little bit of idea about why I'm optimistic about Walker Little. And that is because Sean Starrett, the offensive coordinator, when he sat down, when we had a sit down around table with coaches, a colleague, Me O'Brien, was at the table, and she asked about Walker Little, and Sean Starrett smiled and said, he's been super, super consistent. And then he was asked about Anton Harrison. He says he's done a nice job, but he needs to get more consistent. He didn't have that smile on his face, but he had it for Walker Little. So why am I more concerned about Walker Little than I am Anton Harrison? Because Anton Harrison might not start. And because Walker Little, in my opinion, we've had Jeremy Parnell. We've had before they moved them to we've had a lot of guys that were right tackle. Jawan Taylor was decent, right? I know everybody's saying he ain't worth the money, but he was the left tackle has been the one. It has been the one, along with center. That has been the biggest problem. I know all 5 of those positions are super, super critical. But now that we've put this good report out on Walker Little, I think there are a group of people that are saying we're going to wait and see. And then there's another group of people saying, okay, that sounds good. We believe you. Well, when that happens, now the expectation comes that that's not something that you're going to worry about, right? And that's the last thing you expect to be a problem when people have told you that perhaps you're overreacting and you're overthinking it, and it probably isn't very much of a problem. So now the pressure is on Walker Little and the coaching staff and all of us to make sure that what we are trying to manifesting is what we see, and we have our expectations lined up, right? So critical year for Walker Little. I will say this. I don't know who was responsible for giving him a 3-year, $40 million contract extension or whatever it was. But if Walker Little plays the way that Sean Starrett's smile indicates that he believes he's going to play, we got to give Trent Baalke, if he's responsible, another attaboy and say, you did your job well. Like I said, I don't know who made that call. I'm not interested in finding out, but I am going to tell you this. If it was Trent and he was the GM at the time, and Walker Little ends up turning up and playing extremely well, and the Jaguars get him for less than $14 million a year, it's going to look like a bargain for the next 3 years. Another player who got a contract extension is Tyson Campbell. I believe this is his first year of that extension. Tyson Campbell, former second-round pick, was picked in the same draft as Trevor Lawrence. He looks good, too, in the offseason, man. We got to give Tyson Campbell credit. But the duo of Tyson Campbell and Jordan Lewis is going to be extremely critical to this year's season. Why? It's because this defense apparently, and Monteric Brown, you may want to throw him in there. Apparently, this defense lines right up with the skill set of Tyson Campbell, with the way that they're going to play. His body looks different. He's always been a specimen, but he looks really, really different. He looks totally different. I promise you, if this was a football camp and you walked into that football camp and you looked at all the DBs, easily Tyson Campbell will be the first one any coach goes, who the hell is that? Because of the way he's built, he's a little bit over 6 feet. He's probably like 6'1", close to it. But he's thick, man, but he's wiry. It looks like you made a cornerback in a lab. He's going to have to play well this year. He's going to have to earn all of that money. And some of those questions that people have about him will have to sort of dissipate in order to make people feel good. Now, Jordan Lewis is on the list with him because he's super important. Expected to play outside and inside, depending on whether in a 4-2-5, whether they're in a nickel, whether they're running a base 4-3. Jordan Lewis is going to be on the field. He's going to move around. He plays like his hair and his feet are on fire, and he has the passion for the game, and he's a real good tackler. And then he just doesn't quit on plays. Even when plays he's beaten, the guy catches the ball, he reaches in a lot. He knows all of those little veteran tricks. His value is related to Travis Hunter. Because if Travis Hunter is busy playing offense, you need to make sure you have people like this on defense. And it allows you to have the flexibility that if you're playing 2 corners, there you go. You're good with those 2. If you're playing 3 and one of them's not Travis, you're good with it. If you need a little bit of extra something and Travis is rested, now you put Travis in the game and you got Travis Hunter, Tyson Campbell, and Jordan Lewis. And that's a trio that I think will make a lot of people sit up at night and wonder how you're going to get the ball down the field, especially with the defense and the way that they're going to play. Now, all of this also depends on what happens up front. All of it depends on what happens up front. We know who Josh Allen is. We've seen Josh Allen. I'm not saying that Josh has hit his roof. Josh did have a year where he had 7, and Josh Hines Allen, he had 17 and a half sacks. So we know what he's capable of. We've seen him on teams that are very, very competitive where he's had double-digit sacks when he's had a lot of help around him. And then we've seen years where he's been battling through some injuries where he didn't quite get there. He didn't get there last year, but you know what he did do? Last year, he was top 15 in pressure. So we know he's going to be who he's going to be. We hope Devon Hamilton is going to be who he's going to be. But I ain't going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about guys with potential that we have not seen all the way yet. And as good as Trayvon Walker is, I think there's more that's coming from Trayvon Walker, and he's going to shut a lot of people up, and you're going to really see his value. I'll talk about that on Locked On Jaguars. All right, we're counting down to 5 critical things or critical players, non-quarterbacks, as we head into training camp that is just a couple of weeks away. We've talked about Walker a little. We've talked about Jordan Lewis and Tyson Campbell. And now we get to one of my favorite players on the team because of his effort, because of the quiet way he goes about his business. That's Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker has 22 sacks the last 2 seasons. Top 15 in pressures last year, is known as a game plan record by coaches and coordinators from around the league, does a lot of stuff you don't see. How many times does he tackle somebody and you see that person that he tackled limp to the sideline and have to take a blow and double over and get some water? A lot. But there's still more to be done from Trayvon Walker, and he knows it, and he's hungry. He had his 5th-year option picked up for the Jaguars for next season, so he's under contract for this year and next year. I think we'll also see a contract extension at some point coming for him, because when these new coaches came into the building and they met him, they basically, to paraphrase them, it's a no-brainer. Not only the tape, but him. He's an impressive human being. He's an impressive person. He's a very, very, very impressive football player. And outside of Jacksonville, a lot of people act like he didn't do anything. You've got people talking about, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick for Trayvon. You give me a 3rd-round pick on top of 3 first-round picks. But there's just a lot of people that have been totally ignorant to how good of a football player Trayvon Walker is. There's some blue sky there that you haven't seen. I actually think he could end up being one of the top 5 edge rushers and one of the top 10 defensive players in the National Football League. I think in order to do that, it has to be accompanied with something, and that thing is winning. He had 4.5 sacks as a rookie, but you know what? They won. Jarrett Verse, in the regular season, didn't have very many more sacks than that, and he won Rookie of the Year because the Rams won. I think with winning, people then stop stat watching so much. Certain people, some people are going to always stat watch, and that's what they're going to do, and we just have to live with it. But there are others that are actually going to pay attention to the little parts of the game that really help you win games or lose games. And Trayvon Walker does a lot of those things. Now, we touched on Devon Hamilton a little bit. We touched on Josh Allen a little bit. But my 5th most critical non-quarterback outside of Walker, Little, Jordan Lewis, Tyson Campbell, and Trayvon Walker is Mason Smith. And I say that because of the potential. We just want Devon Hamilton to get back to 2022 Devon Hamilton. I expect Mason Smith to shoot for the stars and go beyond that. Now, they play a little bit of a different position, and Mason Smith probably won't start because of Eric Armstead and his presence. But Eric Armstead's a little older, so Mason's going to get a chance. And then if the Jaguars get in a lot of sub packages, you'll see them there together, side by side. And that'll give, especially if the Jaguars can play ahead or force people to have to keep up offensively, then that means you'll see a lot more packages where teams are on defense, where they anticipate that teams will have to pass the ball. And that's where I think Mason Smith is going to thrive, because he's 6'5.5", 6'6", about 310 pounds or something like that. Long arms, athletic. He's one of those type guys that always ends up, as long as things go right for him, as being one of those people that say, you can't find guys like that anywhere else. That's how he's built. 5-star recruit for a reason. pass rusher, run stopper. There was some good things on tape from him last year. So, yeah, I'm looking for Mason Smith in his opportunities to be the kind of player that they cannot keep off the field, because every time he's out there, he does something. And when it gets to the point where it's more and more consistent and his body has changed, he's looked very, very good this offseason. It will not only help the Jaguars this season. I want y'all to get this. He'll be under contract for 2 more years after this year. This is only his 2nd season. With good teams, you don't just see guys play well this year. You have young guys on the roster that you can see playing well into the future. And you couple that with the guy I just mentioned before him, Trayvon Walker. This is how you start getting good. You retain the players that you have, and you envision them being coupled with young players that turn the corner and become very, very good. I'll use the ops for an example. Jeffrey Simmons is a very good player. T'Vondre Sweat, that rookie from last year, his presence makes Jeffrey Simmons even that much more dominant. That is what I'm talking about, and that's the last time I'm going to ever use the Titans as a positive example for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But we tell the truth on this podcast. That's a scary duo, right? It's not apples to apples. It's a little bit different. Mason Smith, and I'm going to say this. Mason Smith has the potential to give us Marcus Stroud production in the future. Same body type, same type game. That's what I expect. That's what I'm hoping for. And I really, really do believe that this staff can bring that out of her. I think this scheme can bring it out of her. I think offensively, if they play well, he'll get more opportunities and chances to show exactly who and what he is, because he'll be on the field, not playing a certain technique, but he'll be on the field with. I anticipate the Jaguars having Trayvon Walker at left end, Eric Armstead at left defensive tackle, Mason Smith at right defensive tackle, not nose guard, and Josh Allen out wide. This is what I envision when the Jaguars are winning games or they're up and it's passing situations and that crowd is going absolutely crazy at home, or they're on the road and they're trying to rally people. These are the rally stoppers. These are the third down non-conversion guys. Those are the front 4 guys that I want to see at critical situations, early and late. Shout out to Ryan Nielsen for his hockey substitutions. But these are the dudes that we want to see out there when the game counts and when it's critical. I don't want to see a whole bunch of backups out there, and then when the team crosses the 30-yard line, you get desperate and throw your good guys back in and say, put your cape on and save the day. You let them save the day when the team is on their own 20-yard line. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. They can rest when they force the team to punt. Period. Point blank, end of discussion. So those are the 5 guys to me that are the most critical. Now on Monday, early next week, what I'm going to try to do as we head into training camp, I'm going to give you 5 guys that can unexpectedly make contributions to this football team. Those aren't these dudes. These dudes have to play well, in my opinion, for the Jaguars to achieve their goals. I'm not going to state for them what their goals are. For me, the goal is double-digit wins, and I ain't talking about 10. I'm talking 11 or 12. Put yourself in a position to be in the playoffs and then have those bodies that can come out of that tunnel and scare the daylights out of whoever you're playing, and they know it's not a cakewalk. And then we'll just let everything that made the best man win. But you have to put yourself in a position first. And that's what I want the Jaguars to do. And these are the 5 guys I expect to be very, very critical outside of Trevor Lawrence and with Trevor Lawrence to support Trevor Lawrence. Monday, I'll tell you 5 guys, hey, man, this is your opportunity. It'll be guys like Devin Lloyd, Diami Brown, both of those running backs that we have, the incumbent running backs, and Eric Murray, the safety. So I'm already telling you the 5 guys I'm talking about, right? Those guys will be the secondary critical guys, and you maybe even throw in one of those linebackers, whether it be Devin Lloyd or Ventrell Miller or Jack Kaiser, whoever. So that's 6. So we'll discuss them later. But this thing is layered, man. It's layered if you're a Jaguar fan. And the goal is to maximize everything and have your expectations correct. Now, training camp, here's what we're going to do. We'll get down there as much as I possibly can around my recording schedule. So we're making it, me and the guys that I record with that on my Locked On NFL show, we're creating a situation where all of us will be able to have our feet on the ground, 10 toes down at training camp to give the best coverage to the guys and girls that watch and listen to our podcast, but then still fulfill our other obligations. As things move around, there's some days I won't be able to make it, but there's some days I will be. I know I'll be out there the first few days of camp. So all camp, we're going to give you the biggest storylines. We're going to do as many interviews as possible. This is where you're going to probably see more guests than you normally would see, because Locked On Jaguars, y'all want to hear me. Y'all want to hear a bunch of other people, but I think we're going to do it a little bit differently this year. Plus, I got something in store for everyone. Not only Locked On Jaguars, Locked On NFL, but something else once a week that we'll be doing here that I'll tell you about at a later date. Make sure you find those depth charts, get you a roster, a numerical roster, and look it up and down. Even have fun with it and pick the 53 you think will make it. And then at some point in training camp, a couple of weeks in, I want to see y'all adjusting it. I want to make y'all little GMs. That's what I want to do. And one way that'll make you a real smart fan is suggesting that you watch Locked On NFL Scouting with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino. They talk about all the teams from around the league. And I'm sure they're going to get to the Jaguars, or if they haven't already. Make sure you tap into that location. It'll make yourself smarter. And then you'll learn these other rosters too, because there's always trades. There's always guys getting picked up. Who can we get from another team that can help us where we might be a little bit weak? These are things that you need to know. And they also give you a blueprint how to pick your fantasy teams based on what you think might happen if you're into that. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL Scouting wherever you get your podcast. We will see you Monday. We are getting closer to training camp, and I can't wait. And I know you can't either. Make sure you tap into Locked On NFL, Locked On Jaguars each and every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen.